is Tex. Hope y'all are having an awesome day. Today's topic is going to be one about when to hold them and when to fold them. And I hope you enjoyed the reference for those of you that remember the movie and the song. The idea is people have a hard time figuring out when to stay, when to leave when it comes to jobs, relationships, or anything else. Okay, understand. Recently, I was asked, does it seem plausible that oftentimes women will stay longer in a situation than men, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship or something, even when they perceive that things aren't going well? And why do I think it's that situation? Why does that happen? And I'm like, can't speak for women, can't speak for men, really. I can speak for me. For me, it comes down to a decision-making process. You have to know what you're getting into as far as what you're willing to put up with before you get into a situation. If you wait until after you're in the middle of something to start making decisions about whether or not it's too much, whether or not boundaries have been crossed, whether or not you want to stay or go, you've probably waited too long. Because what will happen is you get yourself in a situation where you're at a job, and while you're working the job, things are not bad. And then you'd say, well, if this happens, then I'm going to start looking for another job. If this happens and then this happens, then you go, well, it's not as bad as I thought. No, see, starting off from the beginning with the right frame of mind. Now, mine is a little stricter than others. I get it. I usually have what I call the 3-strike rule. And strikes have to be pretty big for me, but I've already figured out where they're at and what I'll put up with and what I'll take before I get in. When I was presented the question of, staying longer or knowing when to leave, I'm like, well, hopefully before you even got into the situation, you know your limit, what you're going to do. And of course, I kind of shocked people because I said, I got 3 strikes. If you hit the 3 strikes, then I'm not going to sit here and debate. It's not going to be like, oh, well, maybe. No. If I go to a job site and I'm working somewhere and I've already determined that I have my 3-strike rule, my 3 strikes, when they hit, then I'm like already looking at where am I going to go next? What am I going to do for a job? And people go, well, that's scary. And I'm like, no, it's actually being very assertive and communicative and knowing your limits and sticking to them. Now, my 3 strikes depends on what it is. If I'm working at a job and things are getting rough and I'm getting overburdened, that's not a strike. It's a strike when I tell the people above me, by the way, this has gotten too much. It's more than I can handle, and I need some help. I need this straightened out. I need this fixed. And I get ignored. Oh, yeah, we'll get around to it, and nothing happens. Okay. Or if I'm having a situation with coworkers in which it's gotten out of hand and somebody needs to step in and do something, and I tell upper management or owners or whoever, hey, this is the situation, and can we handle this? And yeah, sure, we'll get around to it. You know my opinion, that round to it stuff, people. You need to do it. It needs to be taken care of. And these are the things that I pay attention to. And these are my big strikes. There are other things, but without going into all that, it's the same way in a relationship. If you're getting into a relationship and you've set up your boundaries, see, this is about boundaries again. The 3-strike rule can be adjusted into other language if it makes everyone feels comfortable. You have boundaries, and when people cross those boundaries and don't respect your boundaries, it's time to go find different people, whether it's friends, relationships, work, whatever. The purpose of boundaries is to have a safe working environment, a safe relationship. If people don't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. Please do not think that somebody can disrespect your boundaries but still respect you. You are your boundaries. You have your limits. And if you go into situations knowing this, then it's easier for you to say, and now it's time to get out of that situation. And it can be for anything you're doing, volunteer work, group things, whatever, clubs. if you have boundaries and they're not respected, and if you have boundaries and you don't enforce your boundaries, then there's a failure on both sides to get things done appropriately. And you will let people run over you, or you will let people push your boundaries. People will get away with things. Now, sometimes people are sneaky and you're just going to come back later the next day and go, hey, wait a minute. They just went across my boundary there. Wait, no, no, no. And you go address it. You work on the problem and you talk to that person. The boundaries are for a reason. That way, you know when it's time to do something different. You know when it's time to move on. Now, if you're going to say statistically speaking that because of personalities and who's designed to be a helper and who tends to have more of the help the other one, I will be the first one to admit women get the short end of the stick, and that's just hands down. So men, shut up and quit, trying to blow it off. You and me both know that if you see a family and there's 3 or 4 sons and 1 daughter, guess what? When people get old in the family and need taken care of, they push that real quick on the daughter. And it may not have happened in your family. I'm just talking about statistically speaking. That's the way it shakes down. Why? Again, you'll have to ask the people. All I can say is what I see. And a lot of times it comes down to feeling responsible, feeling, that interconnection, feeling that you have to do something. And that's why I always caution people to be careful, because that easily slides into that drama triangle we talked about, where if you feel that you have to be the helper and people seem to be in crisis, you jump into the helping mode. You start to rescue people. Maybe even if people didn't want it, you rescue people even when you haven't taken the time to address who's responsible, what's going on, who can help. Let's set rules. Again, rules and boundaries help establish a safe guideline for how things should be, instead of a lot of disgruntled people who are upset and feel like they're not getting a fair shake. And the flip side, other people who don't participate in making things happen and leave it all on those people who jumped in to rescue. You figure in your own mind what you believe that divides the line up, but there are people who will do that, or there were people who will convince themselves that the world will not go on if I don't do this thing. These people will all suffer if I'm not here to cook this thing, do this thing, fix this thing, clean this thing, do this job. And I'm like, no. If you base your whole world around making yourself be indispensable, you better be careful, because if you believe what you've made, then you believe you can't leave, you can't change, you can't do, you can't grow, you can't do anything different. Is that what you really want in life? Is it so important to feel needed? See, we're jumping right back into that whole thing about transference, countertransference, which is feeling other people and feeling their pain, but then feeling it at a level where it goes beyond empathy, and you suddenly feel like you have to jump out and fix the problems and all that, instead of just realizing that, yes, things are difficult. You start to lose empathy for yourself, and then you sacrifice yourself. And then, just like the drama triangle, you get upset because the people don't appreciate how much you sacrifice to keep them all together. They don't appreciate how much you sacrifice to make things happen. And if you're in a job where you feel that you're staying because the other people need it, not because it's what you need, well, that's really wild. I understand it's hard enough in a family situation, but when you go to work, you feel that you can't leave the situation. People are telling you, oh yes, we need you here, and then they're dumping on you, and they're not appreciating your boundaries. No, you need to get up and go, folks. So as you go through life, maybe you should start thinking about what are your priorities, which leads me into the second part of this talk. When you are in a relationship with anybody, to including work relationship, jobs, careers, people, life relationships, friend relationships, know your priorities. One of the things I was asked is, what do you mean know your priorities? And I'm like, know what you really, really want. Now I tell people there's a way to do this. If they take a sheet of paper, and this is where the therapy part comes out. You take a sheet of paper and do, sometimes they do this sort of just, throwing everything at the wall to see what's out there before you make a decision, like get all your ideas out there, which I think is brainstorming. I think it's great. Get as many ideas as you can about things that you value. Then go through that list and look hard and go, and what things are top priority for me? And these things that are top priority, put them up and go, are any of these things locked in stone? I will not put up with this, or I really, really want that. And those things are at the top of the list. And then try to get that down to about maybe 2, 3 things that are must-haves, either in your relationship with work, with people, with a, romantic relationship. What are those things that you have to have or won't put up with? And then look at the other stuff and go to the bottom third of that list as you prioritize them and go, do these things even really matter? I mean, are they really that important? Are they really getting all huffy about? In the end, probably a lot of them are like, would be nice as maybe, no, throw them out. Then look at your middle. These are your negotiables. If you get those in the relationship, whether it's work, romance, whatever, then it will increase, enhance, make it feel better. That's awesome. If you have to give some of those up in order to keep these top ones, then that's okay, because these are the priority. And you got to keep your mind on what is the priority? When you're looking at work, the priority may be time off with your family. It could be your salary, but it usually is not your salary. It may be your overall bring home to include insurance and benefits. Maybe the benefits are the top thing. Maybe the location, maybe the training, the opportunity, what you learn, chance to grow, all those things. Figure out which ones are up here and then look at the ones that are here. And like I said, we've already dumped all these little things, and then you know where you stand. And if you're not getting your tops, what are you staying for? If you are someone in a place and have an opportunity to interview and ask people so that you're trying to retain, you're looking at retention, whether it's retention in your relationships that are personal or retention in your job ones. When was the last time you went to those people that work for you or those people that live with you and that you love and asked them, what do you want? I want to make sure. I think I know, but you know what? I might have it wrong. I might have it confused with what I want. What do you want? Really, really want? Oh, there goes that song again. And then once you've done that, then do you feel you're getting it? And if you're not, how can we help you get it? And then work on those other things. Well, okay, we've hit those must-haves. Can we hit those things under it? That's how you end up with happy relationships. That's how you end up with happy employees. Don't think you know other people's priorities. You probably don't. It's hard enough knowing your own. When I ask people to give me these priorities, I'll watch them sit here and squirm and lose their mind. Now, you as an individual coming up with the second half of this again on your part, after you figured out your priorities, how much time are you spending getting those priorities? If your family's a top priority and you're never at home because you're always at work or hanging out with your friends, then you're full of BS. You need to go through that and go, you know what? That don't make sense. I'm saying this is a priority, but I'm not dedicating any work, time, effort towards it. It's the same way as if training or position or whatever it is, your retirement, if these things are your big things, how much time are you devoting? Or are you getting sidetracked in little crap down here? Stay out of the weeds. Go to the part of the tree that bears the fruit. Make your life better by prioritizing, knowing what you want, knowing your boundaries, and working towards them. And if you're in a situation, either work or life, that is keeping you from getting your goals, running over your boundaries, then reevaluate. Maybe it's time to pack up your tent, put it in the wagon, and roll down the trail. Hope y'all have an awesome day. Thank you much.